B2B Cambodia, the portal for business use in Cambodia.
I am your host, Anthony Galliano, and today our guest is Mr. Thomas Carden of American International Tax Advisors. The firm specializes in U.S. tax, and U.S. tax has different meanings to different people, but let's say for one, Americans living overseas that require to file taxes annually. The firm specializes in filing of what's, to me, a very complicated set of forms that need to be filed annually with the Internal Revenue Service and the states, if they're affiliated with a state, also state forms that need to be filed. Also, for firms that have investments in the United States that need to file taxes in the United States, that firm also does this. And the firm also helps foreign companies enter the United States by advising on the proper structure that would be most optimized for them to actually do business in the United States, whether it's to have a company there or to supply goods and services there or to distribute there. American International Tax Advisors can help. So Thomas, let me ask you to introduce yourself.
Again, my name is Thomas Carden. I'm the founding director of American International Tax Advisors. I believe we're actually one of Southeast Asia's largest US-centric tax firm. Now, what that means from an international standpoint, again, there's as you discussed, there's two different types of issues that for Southeast Asia for US tax. One is, as an American, as both of us are, you have to file a US tax return no matter how long you're outside the United States if you have more than $12,500 US dollars of income. The exception to that, if you're just living on Social Security, you have no other income, that zeroes that out, so you don't have to file a tax return, even though you may be getting $18,000 or $20,000 of Social Security.
That's interesting because we do have quite a few people retired here. So if their Social Security is above the $12,500,
they still don't have to file, because as long as they have no other income to this, the Social Security is not taxable. Therefore, they're below the filing threshold. Want a little bit of benefits. And then, so you have individuals. And as you mentioned, these returns are complex because you're dealing with income sourced in two different countries and residency issues in two different countries.
To keep it sort of simple, what are the forms required to file as a U.S. citizen working overseas that, let's say, is working for a company or owns a company that is paying them a salary? The two simplest ones are the regular 1040 tax return, and then you'll file for the foreign earned income exclusion form with this. Just two simple forms, regular 1040, and then there's an application for the foreign earned income exclusion. You'd file these two forms, and that should zero out your taxes. In most cases, the salaries here are so low, the standard deduction kicks in at the first $25,000, and it evens out for the average salary earner here. Okay. And there's something else U.S. citizens need to be aware of, which is not different from a tax form, which is called FBAR, which I'll let you go through the actual full name of it. But it's also a requirement of U.S. citizens to file.
The FBAR is called the Foreign Bank Account Reporting Form. And oddly, this is how bad the form is, it's not filed through the IRS. It's filed through the Treasury Department, but specifically, you will file it with the Financial Crime Center of the U.S. Treasury Department. Oddly, for generations, it was not illegal to have money overseas, and not paying your taxes on it was not necessarily a criminal matter. You could have tens of millions of dollars overseas and only be subject to tax penalties if the IRS discovered it. But what Congress set up several years ago, and this is back in the 90s, they set the FBAR form up to effectively force you to report on all bank accounts overseas in excess of $10,000 in aggregate. Now, this is very important too, because what that means is if you have 20 accounts of $5,000, you have $100,000 accounts. In aggregate, you've exceeded the $10,000. It's not per account balance, it's how many accounts and how much money you have overseas. So you will report the high balance on each account, even if it has $1 in that account, and the account number and the name of the bank. And what this does is it forces you to have to report all of your overseas accounts, because in the United States, you would get your bank would duly fill out a 1099 for any interest earned each year, and the paper trail goes to the U.S. government. The computers match that up. They don't really have a way to do that for foreign bank accounts. So they set this up in the way that allows people to, that forces people actually, to report their bank accounts. Now, here's the bad thing about this. If you are deemed to not have done your FBAR, the penalty is either a minimum of $10,000 or a 50% of the high balance of the bank accounts, whichever is higher. Now, they had a gentleman who, for whatever reason recently, several years ago actually, had 201 small accounts that all were under the $10,000 threshold, but he hadn't reported them on his FBAR, and then he filed an FBAR without going through the Streamline program, which is something of an amnesty. I'll describe that later on. But the Internal Revenue went after him for the $10,000 per account fine and wanted $2.1 million, which exceeded the amount of money he ever had in these accounts to this. Now, fortunately, the Supreme Court came down and ruled, no, no, no. The $10,000 penalty is just based on per FBAR, not per account. That had to go all the way up to the Supreme Court. There's a program called Streamline Filing. Streamline Filing with the IRS allows you to file 6 years of back FBARs and 3 years of your last tax returns if you haven't filed the last tax returns. We then set up a letter to the IRS, and a valid reason is I did not know I had to file my FBAR and declare these accounts. And you file that, and the IRS is very, very good as long as you are not the term willful. Willful means you were trying to hide money overseas. So in that way, if there wasn't actually an amnesty program about 10 years back, but now you can go through Streamline, and more than likely you're going to know U.S. tax or FBAR penalties on this. If you're in this situation, you want to come clean now because you don't want to be paying that penalty in 5 years if the program goes away.
Thank you for that. That was extremely interesting.
to this. Now, the second side of our business is we're very specific to helping international companies who want to do business in the United States. What we specialize in is a Cambodian company wants to start selling their product in the United States. There's so many different ways and structures they can do this, some of which are free of U.S. tax with just a simple form. Others can be, how do we get employees into the country? How do we then, which state is the best to operate in? And we help them plan that, and then we also help them with the filing requirements that they have to do each year on that U.S. investment. And some of the U.S. investments can be for individuals. You can own a Khmer may own a rental property in the United States, and a company may set up a warehouse to do their individual shipping. So there's a whole variety of almost a rainbow of different type of issues that we touch on when either Americans are over here or a company wants to do business in the United States.
Your main office is in Bangkok?
Main office is in Bangkok. I have been a member of the AmCham here for 6 or 7 years now. I have got to live here for about 8 months when I was setting up my companies originally in Asia. Honestly love this country, and Phnom Penh especially. But we service clients all the way from Saudi Arabia through to the Philippines with this. So, we're very active and in and out of here on a regular basis.